Welcome to a new video called as inflammation. Inflammation is a natural response by the body to protect itself from the harmful stimuli such as pathogens, irritants and by damaged cells. It is a vital part of the immune system and plays a very important role in body's healing process. When an injury or infection occurs, the immune system triggers inflammation to help repair the tissues. The inflammation may lead to many complications in case of heart diseases, then in case of diabetes, and in arthritis. Hence, it is essential to find out the root cause of inflammation. It is possible to minimize the risk of inflammation by following the habits. Following healthy diet, by regular exercises, by getting enough sleep, and then the next one is causes of inflammation, or you can say the etiology of inflammation. So the inflammation may occur due to microbial infections like bacterial infections, viral infections and fungal infections. And the other causes like physical agents and chemical agents. In that there is a trauma. What happens in trauma means the cell experiences high stress which leads to damage to the cells. Other like thermal injury and immunity reactions like hypersensitivity reactions. Types of inflammation. There are two types of inflammation. One is acute inflammation, another one is chronic inflammation. Now, what is acute inflammation? If the stress on the cell is for shorter duration of time, then it results in acute inflammation, which is reversible. Then what is chronic inflammation? If the stress on the cell is for longer duration of time, then it results in chronic inflammation, which is not reversible, that is, which is irreversible. The changes taking place in the acute inflammation are classified into two types, that is, vascular changes and cellular changes. Vascular changes. So in the vascular changes, initially there is a vasoconstriction, then it is followed by vasodilation. Due to vasodilation, there is an increase in the blood flow at the site of injury, which leads to redness and hotness. Due to vasodilation, there is an increase in the blood flow and that will lead to increase in the vascular permeability, which results in the escape of protein-rich fluid, which is called as exudate, into the extravascular tissue. The loss of protein from the plasma decreases the intravascular osmotic pressure and increases the osmotic pressure of the interstitial fluid. That will cause edema or accumulation of the fluid at the site of injury and it leads to swelling. And the next one is cellular events. So in the cellular events, the first step is activation and movement of the leukocytes at the site of injury. This process, that is activation and movement of the leukocytes, takes place in 4 steps. The first step is margination and rolling. And the second one is adhesion. And the third step is transmigration. Fourth one is chemotaxis. Let us discuss one by one in detail. The first step is margination and rolling. In the early stage of inflammation, blood flows slowly, which is called as stasis. Then the white blood cells, that is leukocytes, undergo accumulation along the endothelial surface. This process is called as margination. If the endothelial cells get activated, they produce a molecules called as adhesion molecules, to which the leukocytes attach slowly or loosely by a process called as rolling. This attachment is very weak and easily detachable. So the next process is firm adhesion of leukocytes to the endothelial cell wall. So this process is mediated by integrins. Transmigration. As in the diagram which shows transmigration of leukocytes by making the intracellular gap between the endothelial cell lining. So this process is also called as diapedesis. These transmigrated leukocytes is driven by chemokines which are produced in the extravascular tissue. So the last or fourth step is chemotaxis. After transmigration, the leukocytes move towards the site of injury by a process called as chemotaxis. This can be achieved by the help of chemoattractant substances. The chemoattractant substances are of two types. One is exogenous, example bacterial products, and endogenous, like leukotrienes and cytokines. Then finally, there is a leukocyte activation. After chemotaxis, the leukocytes will reach the site of action, that is, at the site of infection or necrosis. The stimuli for this activation of leukocytes is by following, either by microbes or by products of necrotic cells. Leukocytes kills the infective agents by a process called as phagocytosis. So phagocytosis is a process nothing but engulfment of the bacteria and cellular debris by leukocytes like neutrophils and macrophages. Phagocytosis process occurs in three steps. Step 1. Identification and attachment to the target. This process is called as opsonization. Killing and degradation of engulfed material by reactive oxygen and nitrogen species and by lysosomal enzymes.